Hello YouTube, in this video I'm going to address Thunderf00t and two of his latest videos. Now if you are new in this debate, Thunderf00t is a top YouTube atheist, also known for having two famous debates, namely with Ray Comfort and Westbourne Baptist Church. In two of his last videos, Thunderf00t is attacking Professor William K. As many YouTube atheists, Thunderf00t is trying to keep things at a very simple level and also make an appeal to ridicule. Now, Thunderf00t has participated in two debates in the real world with people who hold other worldviews. Now, on the other side, William K. has participated in dozens of public debates with many top intellectuals. Now, before I address Thunderf00t arguments, let me just name a few. Now, just a small clarification, I'm not trying to push an argument from authority for William K. I just want to show the level of sophistication surrounding this man and his debates, and compare that with the Thunderf00t appeared to ridicule. Now, Thunderf00t is beginning this video by trying to present William K. as a creationist. Now, we must understand that from a Thunderf00t point of view, to be a creationist is one of the worst things possible. So basically, Thunderf00t is trying to discredit the man rather than his arguments.
Where would you place yourselves in terms of how you mesh religion with evolutionary theory? I mean, the flat earthers are pretty much hardcore creationists. There are people who actually believe the earth is flat. There are geocentrist people who actually believe the sun does go around the earth. There are young earth creationists, people who believe the universe is about 6,000 years old, depending on what Bishop Ussher came up with. And then it just kind of goes down to materialistic evolution that has no God whatsoever, and everything is as Dr. Craig defines. Would you mind telling me roughly where you would be? Yeah, where you would fall in that?
I have a somewhat agnostic view of this, somewhere between progressive creationism and theistic evolution. Okay. Any of those would be acceptable in my understanding of the evidence, but I have no hard and fast position.
No, but that's fine. As long as I know you're not a young earth creationist, it's just because the Bible says this.
There is one thing that we need to understand about Thunderf00t, and that is that he has a very mathematical mind, pretty much something like the data from the Star Trek. And this is going to become clear in just a few seconds.
We have to realign the entire power grid. We'll all be burning the midnight oil on this one.
That would be inadvisable.
Excuse me?
If you attempt to ignite a petroleum product on this ship at 0 hours, you will activate the fire suppression system, which would seal off this entire compartment.
That was just an expression.
Expression of what?
A figure of speech. I was trying to tell him that we'd be working late.
Ah, then to burn the midnight oil implies late work.
That's right.
I am curious. What is the etymology of that idiom? How did it come to be used in contemporary language?
Well, I don't know, sir.
Okay, let's just begin with something very simple.
Yep, that's right, Bill. If your premises are wrong, the deductions made from those premises will probably be wrong too.
Now, remember that I said that Thunderf00t has a very mathematical mind. For him, if the premise 1 is wrong and the premise 2 is wrong, the result must certainly be wrong.
Yep, that's right, Bill. If your premises are wrong, the deductions made from those premises will probably be wrong too. In science circles, it's called GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out.
However, in philosophy, things are not quite that mathematical. Now, I remember my 7th grade philosophy textbook that would actually begin with an example similar with the one offered by Thunderf00t. It was said let's suppose that we have a long equation, and in that equation, when we are trying to resolve it, we are making 3 or 4 mistakes, and the result of that equation would be 5. And after we communicate the 5 number to the professor, we realize the mistakes made. Now the question was, is 5 correct or incorrect? And the answer was, we have no good grounds to say either one of those two. We must make the equation again. And the problem, the philosophical problem, was like this, that we made the equation again, and we reach to the number 5 as a result.
Yep, that's right, Bill. If your premises are wrong, the deductions made from those premises will probably be wrong too. In science circles, it's called GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out.
Now in philosophy, if the premises are proven to be wrong, all that would mean is that we have no good grounds to believe the result, but the result could just be true anyway.
Yep, that's right, Bill. If your premises are wrong, the deductions made from those premises will probably be wrong too. In science circles, it's called GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out.
Now in philosophy, this is an old problem, and there are many people who have fallen in this trap too.
That is the most reasonable conclusion remaining so far.
By what logical rule of inference does that follow? It seems to me that from those two premises, all that follows is we don't know if there is something beyond nature.
Let me try an analogy. Suppose, to see how my reasoning process works, let me try an analogy. Suppose you have a large sum of money you wish to invest, and I'm a broker, and I'm telling you the stock market's going up and up and up and up and up. And you say to me, well, now look, I'm pretty happy with my bank checking account. My money's really safe. Give me several positive good reasons for investing it in the stock market. And I proceed to give you one after another really weak, in your judgment, argument. And after you get past the third or fourth one, you stop me and you say, no, I'm not going to additionally try to put my money in the stock market. I don't want my money there. You haven't given me enough good reasons.
Gee, now,
the naturalist is somebody who
wait,
retains
look, this
belief in
exactly
nature.
Illustrates my point. That person has not given you reasons to believe the stock market is going up. But that doesn't allow you, anyway, logically to conclude that therefore the stock market isn't going to go up or that it's going to go down. You simply have to withhold judgment.
If your premises are wrong, the deductions made from those premises will probably be wrong too.
Now Thunderf00t, let us try something rather funny. This is one of the Thunderf00t friends. His name is DPR Jones. I'm going to push some premises about him, and Thunderf00t is going to analyze, is going to peer review my conclusion. Now premise 1, DPR Jones has a very heavy voice. Premise 2, DPR Jones has a very big beard. Premise 3, DPR Jones has a very big mustache. Now the conclusion following these premises is that DPR Jones is a man.
If your premises are wrong, the deductions made from those premises will probably be wrong too. In science circles, it's called GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out. In order to understand why the
Now in logic, a deduction made on wrong premises is just a deduction made on wrong premises, and we are not allowed to make any judgments about how correct or incorrect the conclusion may be.
Only 21% of the time does he rely on traditional tactics. So, the captain must be prepared for unusual cunning. Counselor, Commander Riker will assume we have made this analysis, and knowing that we know his methods, he will alter them. But, knowing that he knows that we know that he knows, he might choose to return to his usual pattern.
Wait. You're overanalyzing data.
Now we are going to see another video. This one is edited by the same Thunderf00t, and we are going to analyze his logical arguments.
If the general picture, however, of a Big Bang followed by an expanding universe is correct, what happened before that? Was the universe devoid of all matter, and then the matter suddenly, somehow created? How did that happen? In many cultures, the customary answer is that a god or gods created the universe out of nothing.
And then it was thrown open to the audience, and just anybody could get up and speak and say anything.
Was Richard Dawkins there?
No.
No?
But the level of sophistication was comparable.
But if we wish to pursue this question courageously, we must, of course, ask the next question. Where did God come from?
Premise one, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Things don't come into being from nothing. Premise one, whatever begins to exist has a cause.
Students would get up and say things like,
Premise one, whatever begins to exist has a cause.
if God created everything, then who created God? And then they'd all applaud, as though
Whatever begins to exist has a cause.
as though this were some sort of a significant point. And it became very clear that we were debating in front of a crowd that had only a sort of village atheist understanding of these issues.
So Dawkins was there.
But if we wish to pursue this question courageously, we must, of course, ask the next question. Where did God come from? If we decide that this is an unanswerable question, why not save a step and conclude that the origin of the universe is an unanswerable question? Or, if we say that God always existed, why not save a step and conclude that the universe always existed, that there's no need for a creation, it was always here? These are not easy questions. Cosmology brings us face to face with the deepest mysteries, with questions that were once treated only in religion and myth.
Now, Thunderf00t is trying to push the idea that if we have an explanation, in order to validate it, we need to have an explanation for that explanation also. That is, how that started. Thunderf00t is probably forgetting that he holds the theory of evolution to be true, without having an explanation on how life first started, and that he holds the theory of Big Bang to be true, without having an explanation on how that started. Now, Thunderf00t probably doesn't know that science has for long established that if we have a valid explanation, we don't need an explanation for that explanation, because otherwise we're going to fall into an infinite regression and science could not even go off the ground.
But if we wish to pursue this question courageously, we must, of course, ask the next question. Where did God come from?
Okay, I know I used this example before, but for Thunderf00t's sake, I'm going to use it again. So this on my desk is an imitation after a Neolithical artifact. The original artifact is belonging to Hamadrya culture and is called the thinker from Hamadrya. Hamadrya culture is a Neolithical culture that existed around 5,000 years before Christ on the territory of the present-day Dobruja in Romania. Now, when I am looking at such an artifact, I am able to say a few things about it. For example, the black color tells us that this ceramic was burned in a certain way. Now, I am not a specialist in this culture, so if you're going to ask me the origin of this culture, I will not be able to give you an answer. So basically, I could speak even a half an hour about this culture, but if you're going to ask me the origin of this culture, I will not know to say too much. The question is, the fact that I do not know the origin of this culture, I mean, is this culture originated in Africa? Is this culture originated in Asia? The fact that I do not know the origin of this culture would invalidate everything that I know about this culture, because according to some atheists, especially Thunderf00t, if I do not know the origin of an idea, would invalidate everything that I do know about that idea.
But if we wish to pursue this question courageously, we must, of course, ask the next question. Where did God come from?
Why is there something rather than nothing? Everything else is either explained or well on the way to being explained. We're left with just one little tiny smidgen of a gap in which God is alleged to be hiding. But even if you invoke a supernatural creator to explain why is there something rather than nothing, you've still explained absolutely nothing, because you're left without an explanation for that God himself.
Now, this argument on Dawkins' part, I think, is quite inept, because philosophers of science recognize that in order to recognize an explanation as the best explanation, you don't have to have an explanation of the explanation. In order to recognize that an explanation is the best, you don't need to have an explanation of the explanation.
But even if you invoke a supernatural creator to explain why is there something rather than nothing, you've still explained absolutely nothing because you're left without an explanation for that God.
Created? How did that happen? In many cultures, the customary answer is that a god or gods created the universe out of nothing.
And then it was thrown open to the audience, and just anybody could get up and speak and say anything.
Was Richard Dawkins there?
No.
No?
But the level of sophistication was comparable.
But if we wish to pursue this question courageously, we must, of course, ask the next question. Where did God come from?
Premise one, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Things don't come into being from nothing. Premise one, whatever begins to exist has a cause.
Students would get up and say things like,
Premise one, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Premise one, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Whatever begins to exist, begins to exist, begins to exist, begins to exist.
Now, not only that Thunderf00t has failed to understand the Kalam, but also has wasted 2 videos by attacking a straw man. Because no one has ever said that all things which exist have a cause, but the argument has always been that everything that begins to exist has a cause. However, if Thunderf00t has found someone who has made this argument that all things which exist have a cause, then Thunderf00t should attack that person and not William Kane, who has always made the statement that all things which begin to exist need a cause. Now, considering that everything in the universe had a cause in the finite past, matter, space, and even time, would logically follow that that cause need to be a timeless cause. That is the argument for God. Because God, it is said, it is the best explanation for this timeless cause. This is the argument that Thunderf00t has failed to address. He has made a lot of appel to ridicule, a lot of ad hominem. It has used a lot of mockery that has failed to address this simple R-type argument.